Now, the other story we are also bringing to you this afternoon is about what's going to be happening come this weekend, where thousands of people will descend on Durban's Moses Mabhida Stadium on Saturday for the official handover ceremony of that certificate recognizing Misuzulu KaZwelithini as Zulu King. President Cyril Ramaphosa will be delivering that certificate to Misuzulu KaZwelithini. eNCA senior reporter Siphamandla Goge following that story for us. He's standing on the bridge this hour, not far from Moses Mabhida Stadium, eThekwini there. Good afternoon, Ngome. Thousands of people are expected to descend on that stadium that we can see there behind you. What is the mood currently at eThekwini? What is the mood ahead? Just 2 days before the handing over of the certificate ceremony, which will conclude, I guess, all necessary coronation processes for King Misuzulu KaZwelithini.
Well, it's a positive mood, it's a positive vibe. You know, you can tell that something is happening in and around eThekwini. There are final touch-ups that are being carried out, preparations underway inside the Moses Mabhida Stadium. Behind me, work is still going on to put on those final touches so that come Saturday, everything is in order. People are already coming into eThekwini. We are just nearby the Route First Highway here, popularly known as the M4. You see blue light convoys here. You can tell that high-profile dignitaries and guests have already started arriving in eThekwini. Interministerial committee having briefings, trying to ensure that everything is done accordingly. Members of the Royal House also trying to make their way to eThekwini to prepare for Saturday. Earlier on, there was some sort of a media engagement with Prince Misuzulu Throne, who's the traditional Prime Minister for Amazulu Nation and the monarch. He was highlighting what has happened leading to this moment and how crucial is the ceremony that will take place on Saturday. It's not the coronation of the king. The king is firmly on the throne. The traditional coronation was done on the 20th of August when the king performed the crown entering ceremony. On Saturday, President Cyril Ramaphosa and the South African government will be handing over a certificate of recognition to King Misuzulu KaZwelithini in terms of the Khoisan Traditional Leadership Act. Remember, kings and queens or traditional leaders are public servants and they are regarded as public representatives. So in order for them to enjoy whatever benefits that government is offering, they need to be recognized by the government. But it's a practice that was started by the colonial government and the apartheid governments, which decided to recognize kings, particularly in the Zulu kingdom. But in the past, it was not done to other kings. It started with King Bande. Let's take a listen to Prince Misuzulu Throne explaining what will need to happen for King Misuzulu to craft his own path and his own legacy, taking over from his late father, King Zwelithini KaZwelithini.
The Saturday's ceremony must be seen merely as a unifying South African event. We pray that the reign of His Majesty King Misuzulu will bless not only the province of KwaZulu-Natal, but all of South Africa. For His Majesty's leadership has the power to foster social justice, to foster peace and development.
So the significance of this handover of the ceremony, I mean, you were saying it was not done for many years in the past and then started at some point during the colonial days. In today's terms, what's significant? What's the significance of this act that's going to be happening on Saturday? Siphamandla?
It's part of the fulfillment of a constitutional and legislative process that needs to be performed by the South African government. South Africa is a constitutional democracy. Whatever happens needs to happen within the confines of the constitution. And in that constitution, the issue of traditional leadership is recognized, and there is that act of the Khoisan Traditional Leadership Act, whereby kings and queens, their powers, responsibilities are clearly outlined. So it's significant in a sense that it will send a message that they fully recognized AmaZulu monarch is King Misuzulu KaZwelithini. But this is just a government process to say we are hereby handing over a certificate of recognition. You are the rightful heir to the Zulu throne. You are recognized as the king of AmaZulu. You will enjoy all the benefits, be it security and other benefits that the state accords to those who are fully recognized as traditional leaders. But Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi explains the significance of this ceremony that will take place on Saturday.
What is significant about Saturday's event is that it will allow millions of South Africans as well as international viewers to witness His Majesty's recognition as King of the Zulu Nation by the President and the government of South Africa. I must sound a word of caution. However, we've been told that the Moses Mabhida Stadium can safely hold 48,000 people without any risk of stampedes or any harm. So clearly, many wish to attend this ceremony, but I would say that unless our people feel a particular compulsion, I would like to emphasize that to be there in person for safety's sake, it would be better, in my view, to watch the proceedings on television. Nevertheless, for the thousands of people who will be in attendance, this will be a truly historic moment. For most South Africans, it is one of those once we know in a lifetime.
And Siphamandla, of course, we know that the AmaZulu throne has been disputed, and recently there's been differences in the family. We understand a little bit earlier, I was speaking to Nqobile Madlala outside Sibaya Resort there, where they were expecting Prince Buzabazi to address a press conference, and that was postponed or cancelled. But he was going to be briefing there. He's another one who has a claim on the throne. Did Mtwana Wakapindangene address that?
Of course it did, in line and in context, or rather if you take into account the context of what has happened in the past. So let's start with what is happening currently. Princess Magade, the late King Zwelithini's firstborn son, is already claiming the throne. He says he's the rightful heir to the throne because he's the firstborn son. The issue of who your mother is does not matter within the Zulu royal family and context when it comes to choosing the next king. That's what he says, and those who support him say that he has also performed his own ceremony of entering the Krala at eNyokeni Royal Palace. Now you have Prince Buzabazi, who has been nominated by those who call themselves the ruling core members of the royal family. They are the late king's siblings, talking about Prince Mbonisi, Prince Mathubesizwe, Prince Vulindlela. They say they are the ones who are members of the royal council, immediate family members. Their brother, the late king, tasked them with the responsibility of ensuring that they deal with the issue of succession, and they are the ones who should be nominating the next AmaZulu king. They have nominated Prince Buzabazi for the throne. Now there is a legal challenge that is underway whereby Princess Magade wants President Cyril Ramaphosa and the Minister of Kokta, the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, not to recognize King Misuzulu KaZwelithini pending the finalization of all the legal disputes that are underway. So the issue of the throne and the disputes will continue. It's not something new, by the way. Let me remind our viewers that when King Shaka the Great, the founder of the Zulu nation, passed away, he was killed by his own brothers. King Dingane took over from King Shaka. King Dingane was dethroned by his own brother, by the way, King Pande. And when King Pande's sons, the time Prince Tetshwayo and Prince Mbuyazi, fought over the throne, obviously later on King Tetshwayo took over. You come all the way down to King Zwelithini himself. There's always been disputes when it comes to the issue of the throne. So it has happened before for many years, ever since this kingdom was founded more than 200 years ago by King Shaka the Great. Because before King Shaka, the Zulu nation was just a small tribe, you know, not so much so significant. But when King Shaka took over, he decided to conquer and form the one mighty, powerful Zulu kingdom and the nation. Since then, the throne has always been disputed. But the difference with what is happening currently is that it's playing out in the courts. Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi saying with time it will come to pass.
Unfortunately, but not surprisingly, we've been full of twists and turns. This has been the nature of royal succession, I'm afraid. As you know yourselves, as South African journalists, you know from the very genesis of the Zulu monarchy, these ructions have always been part of it. But throughout the process, however, since His Majesty King KaZwelithini passing, I've never doubted for one moment that his rightful and successor would ascend to the throne. You'll remember my statements. And I say this, ladies and gentlemen, despite the litigation, of course, that was brought, despite the need for a panel appointed by the President to engage with the royal family, and despite some very negative comments and actions by some members of the royal family, which caused us tremendous distress, I must admit. And despite all this, the fact remained that His Majesty King KaZwelithini's heir would always come from Her Majesty Queen Mantombi Shiiwe Dlamini Zulu.